first speaker this year and our first speaker for the last 3 years has been this wonderful, very successful lawyer who decided, well, I'll let her tell you about her whole career. Anyway, this is Maricela Moore, a very successful lawyer in Dallas, and she's going to talk to you about when she made up her mind to become a lawyer and what she does as a lawyer. Maricela?
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Ms. Maricela.
Look at you. Wow, I am so impressed, as always, with the students at this school. Let me tell you, it is an honor to be here. This is one of my favorite days every year. Mr. Dunning organizes this, and every time I get a call from him asking if I will come to speak to the San Jacinto Elementary School, I just cannot wait. I move things around on my schedule. I was out of town yesterday, and I made sure to get back by this morning because I absolutely love the opportunity to talk to the students at this school. And let me tell you why it's so exciting for me. You truly represent the future of this city. Each of you in this room, and I say this very sincerely, you each can do whatever you want. Every single one of you in this room has so much opportunity, I'm almost jealous. I almost think, boy, I would love to go back to where they are, because to me, you are sitting in the most amazing position because, first of all, by walking in this room, I already know, without having to ask any of you, that you are motivated by school. You know that working hard, challenging work, not when the work is easy, but when the work is hard and it challenges you, that you're learning, that you're committing yourself to the future of who you are. I'll briefly interject about my two children because they teach me every day so much. And I have a 6-year-old, and my 6-year-old gets so frustrated sometimes. Do you guys have spelling tests? So, yep, those are hard, aren't they? And my 6-year-old, sometimes he gets so frustrated. And I tell him, his nickname is Tito. And I say, Tito, yeah, you like that name? Yeah, he's got a cute little name. If you knew everything, we wouldn't send you to school. We'd send you to work, right? So when you are working and it's challenging, that excites me. That's when I know that it's working. When you have to think and you might get it wrong on the first try, but then you continue to work on it, and maybe by the 3rd or 4th try you master it, that's exciting for me. So I just want to start this off kind of in the middle, and we'll work backwards, and then we'll go forward and talk about some of your questions. But I really want you to know that I have a very busy schedule, but I would never miss the opportunity to speak to you because you excite me. And I want to thank you for letting me to come today to speak to you. So let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about me. So as Mr. Dunning told you, I am a lawyer. And there are lots of different kinds of lawyers. There are lawyers in the criminal system, and then there are lawyers in the civil system. Now, the criminal system is what you might see on TV where someone might break a law, and so the state or the city has to come against that person and try to say, you've broken a law. That's the criminal system. And so those people, if they're found to have been guilty of that law, they might have to pay money or they may have to go to jail, things like that. So those are criminal lawyers. Very interesting. But that's not what I do. I'm on the civil side. And this is the way the civil system works. We all live in a community together, right? We all live in Dallas together. In order for our community to work well, we have certain agreements we make with each other. So for example, I work a lot in employment. How many people in here have a mom or dad or grandparent who has a job? I bet everybody's gonna raise their hands. Well, in that job, there are certain rights that people have. You have the right to go to work and the right not to be hit. You have the right to go to work and to be paid fairly. Girls and boys have the right to be able to go up as high as they want in their profession. Teachers have rights at work. Well, one of the things I do is I help companies and individuals understand their rights. And that's all in the civil system, okay? So the other day I was speaking to my son Tito's first grade class. He's younger than you guys. And I was trying to explain exactly, well, what does that mean? What are you doing? And this is the way that I described it. How many people in here have certain rules that you have to follow when you go to school, right? There are certain rules. Well, wouldn't it be really difficult to go to school every day if no one explained to you what the rules were? If they said, you have to follow the rules, but we're not going to explain to you what those rules mean. Well, that wouldn't be very fair, would it? And what do you think would happen? You might accidentally break a rule, isn't that right? And you might get in trouble, and you would say, well, that just doesn't seem fair. Because if I knew what the rule was, I would have followed it. But no one explained it to me, right? Well, what I do is I help people and I help companies understand what the rules are. Because if we all understand the rules, then we can all follow the rules. And to me, that's really important because I just don't think it's fair for people not to understand what's expected of them. Now, in order to do that, one of the things that I do is I go to court. Now, a lot of you probably watch a little bit of TV. Have you ever seen court on TV? And it looks really exciting. And they all are very good speakers. And they just get so into their moment and their argument. And you think, wow, that's what I want to do, right? Well, I do a little bit of that. It's not always so exciting, but it is very, very thrilling. Because I get to go in front of a judge and say, Judge, listen to what this person that I'm trying to help is trying to tell you. This is the way the rule is supposed to work, and they did not break it. Or this is the way the rule works, and you need to explain to this other person that they've broken that rule. And in our society, we have to follow rules, right? So that there's justice. Justice means fairness, right? We don't want to be treated better or worse than anyone else. We just want it to be fair. And that's what I do. I go to court and I try to tell the judge, Your Honor, we just want fairness, right? And that's I'm very honored to be able to do that. That, to me, is a great job because I think that everybody deserves to be treated fairly. And if we don't have good lawyers, there might be people who live within our communities, maybe a neighbor or a family member who's not being treated fairly, and that does not make me feel good. That doesn't make me proud of my community, okay? So that's a lot of what I do. Now, I want to step back a second and talk about why I decided to do that. Why I decided that just like you, when I was your age, I could have been anything. Maybe not a basketball player. I don't think I'm quite tall enough for that. But I could have been anything, just like you can. And why I decided that going into the law was something that I was passionate about. And then after we talk a little bit about that, I want to explain to you what the road looked like, going from where you're sitting to where I am. Because I think it's important for each of you to not only have a goal as you go through this entire series of various professionals and you learn a little bit about different professions, what I want to challenge each of you to do is not only think about what you want to be, but how you're going to get there. Take responsibility for your profession. Take responsibility for your future and decide, who am I going to be in the 5th grade? Who am I going to be in the 7th grade? Who am I going to be when I graduate from high school? And then what will my next step be towards college and even beyond? So I hope that by explaining to you what I did, it'll help you to try to draw that out for yourself, okay? Because I think that's exciting. I think that that's a great opportunity for you. So when I was about your age, I did not know very many lawyers. My parents are both teachers. It's a profession I am very, very, very thankful for because my mother was an elementary school teacher and my father was a social worker and he worked in the schools, and they truly believed in education. They believed in giving me opportunities, but they weren't lawyers. I didn't have aunts or uncles that were lawyers. I didn't have grandparents that were lawyers. Didn't really have anyone that I was related to who was a lawyer, okay? But then one day, a friend of my parents came over, and she was at the house. She was kind of a petite lady, kind of like me, and I started talking to her about what she did. And I was probably about your age. And she started telling me about her job and how she was a lawyer. And how what she did was that she spoke for people. She gave a voice to people who perhaps did not understand all the rules, like we talked about. People who perhaps were a bit intimidated. Do you know what intimidated means? What does intimidated mean?
Like when you go for something, like go.
Yeah, kind of scared, kind of afraid. People that were a little bit afraid to speak for themselves. And what she explained to me was that by her confidence in herself and her understanding of all of the rules, she could speak for those people. And I thought, what an amazing thing to do. If I commit myself to learning the rules and learning how to express myself in writing, in speech, in understanding of other people, learning how to listen, which is very important as a lawyer. You don't only have to understand how to speak, but you have to listen to what the other side is saying. Because you can't communicate yourself and your message if you're not listening to what the other side is saying. And as she explained all of this to me, I thought, that's what I want to do. And so I asked her, well, how do you do that? What do I need to do? And she told me what I'm going to tell you. You need right now to commit yourself to being the hardest working student that you can be. And that doesn't mean making hundreds on the math quiz if you're really good at math. That's important. It's important to excel. But that's not what working hard always means. What working hard means is taking those subjects that are difficult, the ones that don't come naturally, the ones that require that you go to a teacher and say, I need some extra help because this is not making sense to me. It's having the confidence in yourself to allow yourself to do things that are not easy, but then committing to doing them well. And if you can do that, and if you can understand that at your age, that things will not always be easy. School was not always easy for me. I was not one of those students that could walk into a class with a quiz that I'd not studied for and make an A. I was not that student. That's just not who I am. But I was the student who knew that if I have a quiz on Friday, I'm going to start studying for that quiz on Monday. Because you never know what's going to come up on Wednesday or Thursday. You might have a soccer practice on Wednesday or a game on Thursday, or maybe a friend might want you to come over and play on Thursday. So if I were to wait until Thursday to study for that quiz, I probably wouldn't have done very well. And what I learned at your age from listening to people who were lawyers, people who had shown me what it means to be successful, is that being successful in whatever you do, but particularly for me, being a lawyer, it means learning how to be a good student. You right now in your first steps of whatever profession you might want to take on. Does that make sense? And so what I did is I took that to heart and I decided, well, I know it's not going to be easy because anything that you do is not going to necessarily be easy. I knew it was going to be challenging, but I committed myself to taking hard classes, to working hard, to even allowing myself maybe not to get the best grade, but taking a challenging class because I needed to show myself that I could stand up to a challenge. And I did that through elementary school, and I did that through high school, and then I went to college. And in college, I continued to work hard and take very difficult classes and study. And then after that, I went to law school. So when I went to college, I decided to go away from Texas, and I went to Boston. I went to a great school called Boston College, and I studied hard. And after that, I went to Washington, D.C. Who knows where Washington, D.C. is? Who lives in Washington, D.C.? President Obama lives in Washington, D.C. Well, I went to Washington, D.C. to study the law. Now, I did not have a single family member in my entire family tree. And I will tell you, I'm probably related to like 400 people in San Antonio alone. So I have a big family. Not a single family member had ever left the state of Texas to go to school. So this wasn't something that I did because all of my family did it. I'm not telling you that this was easy for me, but I did it because I believed in myself. And because I believed that I could do something that maybe my brothers and my sisters did not do, right? My brother and sister are great people, very committed, and they went to school in San Antonio. But I decided I was going to do something different. So let me ask you some questions. That's a little bit of where I've gone. And I wanted to kind of introduce myself so maybe you can start thinking of things that you want to ask me. But let me ask you, who in here has thought about going to college? Oh, that's what I want to see. Every single hand in the room's going up. You know what I will tell you? If you are committed to going to college, you will go to college. Do not ever let a parent or an aunt or a teacher or anybody else tell you that you cannot go to college. Because if you are sitting here right now today and you are committed to doing that, if you're committed to your education, it is there for you. It is there for you. Now, who in here has thought about what they want to do after they graduate? Well, I would be really interested to hear some of what you want to do. What would you like to do?
I would probably go get a job.
You want to get a job? That's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. Do you have an idea of what job you would like?
I'll be a bishop.
A bishop. Very good. How about you? What would you like to be? A doctor. Excellent. What would you like to do? A builder. Very important. Okay, we're going to take one more. What would you like to be? A veterinarian. I will tell you, I am already so impressed with the students in this room because you are thinking of all of these great things that you can do. Now, let me ask you something. Who in here thinks that school is easy? Good. That's what I want to see. Who in here thinks that school is important? I tell you what, I don't know what kind of water they have in this school, but I think I'm going to take some home and give it to my kids. That's exactly what we want to see. That's exactly right. Well, what I want to tell you is that as you go on this path to being a veterinarian, to being a builder, to being whatever you want to be, when it starts getting difficult, that's when it starts getting exciting. That's when you know that you're growing as an individual. So let me ask you, does anybody here have a question about what I do? What's your question? Did anyone ever tell me that I could not be a lawyer? If they did, I think my father spoke louder and allowed me not to pay attention to them. I'm sure that if they didn't tell me, I'm sure people thought it. I'm sure they did. I know that when I decided to leave Texas and go to Boston, I had family members that thought my parents were crazy. I had family members that thought, that is almost irresponsible to let this little girl, I was 17 years old, leave the state of Texas to go to one of the coldest cities in the United States. They thought, oh my gosh, my parents had just fallen off a wagon. And they did not think that was a good idea. But you know what? We didn't listen to those people because I believed in myself. And my parents believed in me. I listened to people who were positive about the risks and the challenges that I wanted to take. So certainly there will be people. There may be someone that says, you can't be a veterinarian. What are you talking about? Well, you say, well, I'm just not going to listen to you because I believe in myself. And that's much more important. Who else has a question? Let's see. Yes, sir.
How old were you when you decided that you wanted to be a lawyer?
So I believe when I met this friend of my mom's, I believe I was in the 3rd or 4th grade. It was in elementary school. I was pretty young. Yes, sir.
How many years have you been a lawyer?
The question was, how many years have I been a lawyer? I've been a lawyer for 12 years. 12 years as a lawyer. Yes, ma'am.
What college did you go to?
What college did I go to? So I went to Boston College. It's a school in a little suburb of Boston, Massachusetts. But I grew up in Austin. Mr. Dunning was talking about UT. You guys are going to go to Austin, and you're going to go to the University of Texas campus. I grew up very close to UT, right near the campus. But I went all the way to Boston College. Let's see. We've spoken to you two. Oh, all the same. Let's see. Yes, sir. We haven't talked to you. Say that again? Oh, that is a great question. I love that question. Has being bilingual ever helped me? Absolutely. I cannot tell you how many opportunities I have had as a lawyer because I speak Spanish. And it's so important to me that in our household, our children speak Spanish. That's how important it is to me. As a lawyer, as you can imagine, there are a lot of people that are part of the court system who may not know English. And so sometimes the courts bring me in to serve as what's called a mediator. And a mediator is someone who, let's say we're in a fight, right? And we don't want to spend a bunch of time fighting, so the court will say, okay, you need to get with these people and try to get them to come to an agreement. Just stop fighting. Well, sometimes I do that for people who may not speak English so that I can understand their side of the story. And so I speak Spanish quite a bit at work. I do a lot of work representing people who don't speak English because as a lawyer, I really want to understand and be compassionate for my client. And so I speak Spanish all of the time. I'm in a case right now in which I'm representing the president of a company from Spain. And this is this really big dispute that they're having. Well, all of the documents, all of the email, all of the contracts are all in Spanish. And one of the reasons that I was hired in this case is that I can read all those documents because another lawyer may not be able to do that. So absolutely, if you have the ability to speak a second language, whether it's Spanish or French or German, whatever you are exposed to, keep that up. You will set yourself apart if you can learn more than one language. And that's a great question. Let's see, we've heard from both of you. We haven't heard from you. Yes, sir.
Who inspired you to be a lawyer?
Who inspired me? So what we were talking about is I had a friend of my parents that I met who was a lawyer, and she inspired me. But after meeting her and kind of getting that bug in my system, then I reached out to other people who were lawyers, and I learned about what they did. And that's a great question. That's something that I would really motivate you and encourage you to do. If there is some profession, some job that's kind of interesting to you, see if you can meet other people who do that. And they may not be in your family. Like me, I had to reach outside of my family to find lawyers. But try to find other people who do what you would like to do. If you want to be a doctor and you get a little older and you have the ability, go ask a doctor if you can shadow them. Go watch them do their job. I always tell students who are in college, if you're interested in law, come hang out with me. I'll put you to work. Let's go to court. Let's come watch what I do so that you can see it. Because for me, that's a great way of getting really motivated. And so a lot of people inspired me, beginning with the first one that I talked about, but then lots of lawyers after that. Let's see. Have we heard from you? Oh, well, okay, yes, ma'am.
What was your favorite subject in school?
What was my favorite subject in school? Well, that one's very easy. I really enjoyed English. I enjoyed English, and I also enjoyed history. I've always really enjoyed reading. I like to write. I think that for me, that was something that I was able to perfect. And if you can learn how to communicate what you are feeling or what you believe in writing, that to me was a great asset and something I enjoyed. Is that fire drill? Oh. Does anybody in here keep a journal? Does anybody have to write in class to journal? Excellent. Well, you know what? Let me tell you something, and I do this with my son in the summertime. Sometimes in the summertime when you don't have anything to do, you know what's kind of fun? What I do with my son? Keep a little journal. It's kind of neat. And something like that where you're just writing, you really start to learn how to express yourself. I did that at a young age, and I've always kind of done that. And I feel like that is a way for me to really understand myself and to learn how to use a skill that now I use in my profession, which is writing. So that's something that if you don't do it, think about it. I would highly recommend it. Yes, sir.
Was there ever a case that you had to learn a new language, like a bit of French?
Was there ever a case in which I had to learn a new language like French? Let me think. Boy, that's a good question. There was a case, I did not learn the language, but there was a case when I was at this big international law firm I was telling you about, and we represented a Chinese company in a trade dispute. So they were selling stuff to a company here, buying things from another company, and a lot of the documents were in Chinese. But you know what I did? I was smart. I found a lawyer who spoke Chinese, and that lawyer was able to read the documents, because I was not able to read the documents in Chinese. So that's a great question, which means that that person who knew Chinese had a great opportunity, right? Let's see. Yes, ma'am. Oh, how many clients have I had? I would not be able to count the number of clients I've had. Hundreds. I've had lots and lots of clients. And I've had clients who are individuals. I've had clients that are companies of all different sizes. And I can feel the microphone being pulled away from. I can feel it. I can see Tom going, she's going to talk forever.
No, isn't she fabulous? I mean,